All right, hey out there, everybody! It's Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide Day. We've been running Tiny Winter Tournament matches pretty much all day, so it's been a great day of randomizer. But we are featuring two runners today, Mr.Entity and Thorn. They will be doing their either semifinals or round one matchup. We couldn't figure out what to call this thing, so it should be a fun time. We've been using a flag set that has lower requirements than the standard one that is on the website, with a skip at the 7 characters and 10 Esper threshold that the normal standard races usually have. We also have a few different other options turned on here, like all relics are equipable by all characters, and instead of starting with 2 characters, we'll start with 3 in this particular set of options. So this should be a lot of fun. We have a lot of matches that are already have concluded, so if you'd like to check out the bracket, exclamation bracket, I believe, is the link to the challenge.com bracket, where we have all of the standings so far, and we're just waiting to have these 2 runners say that they're ready to go, and we'll have it underway. So, what are you looking forward to in this race here, Bill?
They're going to be looking for, or rather, this is a progression times 3 scaling. So enemies are going to start out a little bit harder than usual. This is a slightly more challenging flag set than maybe the old standard. So with no free progression turned off, meaning you can get free stuff pretty much anywhere from any quick free check, is going to increase enemy levels by 3 every time. So they're going to have to be careful when doing their free checks, their looting, their shopping, to not get way behind the scaling and make all the fights in front of them much harder. So I'm looking for some balance in checks, or if they want to go, ham with it, then all they need to do is make sure they do some grind fights or something to make up for it, so we don't see disasters in the bosses.
Yeah, we also see we have X Magic actually as one of the skills that, or abilities that are actually in the pool. We have Sabin with Jump. I missed what Gao has, but the handy dandy tracking sheet tells us that it is Rage and Tools, so depending upon what the Rage list is, that'll be very useful. Tools is also useful, as we do have the runners start, I believe, with 1 tool in this particular set of options. Yet to see what it is, of course. But we also have more rages than normal, anywhere between 15 and 30 to start out. So it'll be interesting to see which ones we have to make use of during the early go. But X Magic probably won't be used very early on in the seed. Won't have enough magic points for that. And Jump, we'll have to see what Sabin can equip. Sabin usually has very high strength, so hopefully that'll be good, as we see an offering over in the shed and an Atma weapon. So we're pretty decently geared up for the end game right there. That's an end game build that Mr. E has showed us in the shed in Narsh here. A Magus Rod out of the clock, which would be good for the aforementioned Rage or Realm with X Magic if Gao can equip it. Now, Realm will probably be able to equip that, because the equipment for this particular set of options is, let's see, it's regular plus some amount of random.
40%, I believe.
So yeah, so since Realm can equip the Magus Rod in the vanilla game, that should be something we throw on Realm real fast, as our runners are doing the usual looting first. Mr. Entity going to check the mayor's house over here, or the elder's house. And
yeah, he likes this check, but it is one of the less common checks in there that people typically do. And interestingly, I noticed we saw both runners check the chests in the adventuring house, which is something you don't see every day either. Just because they take there's only one chest per room. They take a little while to get there. And did I just see Atma weapons for sale in the weapons shop?
I did not see the Atma weapons for sale. I know we have them from one of the chests in the shed. Oh, yep, there it is for 34,500. So, in case you want more of those, you can always come back later because
Yeah, I think
we've got an
Thorn
offer.
must be taking some notes here.
Yep, always good to make sure if you see something in the shop, write it down for later. So this way you're not going to every single shop on the way. Mirage Vest out of the bucket there, that automatically grants the image status, which, I mean, if you have no better armor for the final boss, at least will help you with tier 1 and then possibly in tier 3 if the image status lasts as long as you get into a fight with an NPC there. You hate to see it happen, but looting Returner's house, and I'm assuming they will probably head down to South Figaro. We are probably looking for dried meat at this point in order to do Gao's Velt check. You need dried meat to feed to the character or NPC for the reward for Gao's particular check. So that's what we'll see in the early going, and nothing really happening so far. Bioblaster is a tool that you could use. It's probably only useful on a handful of things, but it's good AoE for killing mobs. And if we go through the Serpent Trench, that's probably going to get some use there.
Yeah, the Bioblaster, one of the good options for just doing some grind fights, or if you're taking some fixed encounter checks as well. Definitely not bad to have, especially for only 600 GP. Might as well add it to the arsenal.
Yeah, for the 1 or 2 bosses also that are weak to poison, Poltergeist and Funbaba, but hopefully you have other sources of damage, because that will definitely take a while. As
right.
we're hopping into South Figaro here. Got some earrings. Those will increase your magic damage by 20% if you've got 1, or 50% if you have 2. And it looks like we're going to be picking those up here for a little bit less than 4,000. That's a pretty good relic to have, especially with the aforementioned X magic on Realm. Realm has the highest base magic stat in the game, so I'm assuming that that's what we're going to go with later on. Although X magic is a bit slow since you are casting multiple things, and it takes time for both items to cast, and it just slows down the character in general.
Yep, it has a lot of utility in late game, and it could actually be really great in early game if you happen to find an economizer and a decent spell. It can be really powerful if you find like tier 3 magic and an economizer, and then you just start burning through everything. Because you can, it's one turn, but you can get countered in between the casts for X magic, so it doesn't exactly stack or push you beyond the damage cap, but it does ensure that if you have one powerful character, they become twice as powerful rather than relying on some weaker characters.
And there's also utility where you could cast 2 different spells in the same turn if you really need it. So if we find Quick, we could cast Quick on somebody and then cast something else on somebody else. Or if we have to bring one of our characters back to life, we could do that and deal damage on the same turn. It's not necessarily a lost cause, so we'll see if that gets some usage later on in the game. But the regular magic is also an option if you don't want to cast 2 things at once. So we're heading down in the basement here. We don't have Celeste, so we can't check the cell for anything, but there are, I believe, 10 or 11 treasure chests here, and in the next set of rooms you can encounter some enemies, so it's a decent place for some grind fights.
It's a strategy that a few people have adopted in Worlds Collide. Not one of my personal favorites, just simply because if you die, you have to just walk back and grab all those chests again. It just takes extra time, but it does technically get you some fights while doing something else, which I think is why people like it.
Yeah, especially with the aforementioned progression ×3 for the enemy scaling. You're going to want to get out in front of that as early as possible, because Gao's Velt check does not have any fights to fight. We have Sabin in the party, so Collapsing House is also an option for a check that you don't have to take any fights with, although there are 2 monster in the boxes, which are shuffled in this particular seed, so any monster can show up in any box. And once you come out of the collapsing house, you cannot go back in it to fight the monsters inside of it. Mega Elixir there in basement number 2. Always nice to have for the last Kefka battle after he casts Fallen One to heal your party back up. And it looks like Mr. E is going over to the World of Ruin and he's doing some grinding here. Right outside the bucket, which is pretty gross to drink out of, but it somehow heals your party. And SilverThorn is going to head over to, looks like Albrook here. There are 5 treasure chests in Albrook, as I haven't seen any great rages on there. IO is probably the best one. That one casts Flare Star, which is dependent upon your the level of the enemies that you're fighting. So maybe that is good with progression times 3. So that is a fire spell. So I expect that to probably come out from Gao, unless there is a better option for tools, but I haven't seen it yet. There are 5 treasure chests here in Albrook. There's 6 in the World of Ruin, because that guard blocking the path to the docks is not there, so you can grab another chest out of the box. So I guess Thorn is not comfortable with his gear, as we see Mr. E also in Albrook, but as I mentioned, in the World of Ruin, he'll have access to 1 additional chest. And the shops are different between both of the worlds, right? The World of Balance Albrook shop is not going to be the same as the World of Ruin one, so we'll see if there's anything decent in the World of Ruin one.
Yeah, but the chests are all the same. Except, of course, the one you can't get in World of Balance. But I did notice on Mr.Entity's screen that he found somewhere a dragon horn, and considering he has a character with natural jump, that may come in really handy, depending on, as you mentioned, what Sabin can equip. So I'll be looking out for lances, R-lances, Pearl lances, perhaps a partisan, but even if you can't find a lance with a dragon horn and built-in jump, it's probably worth it. So you can equip a trident, which is a lance. It's not exactly
is a spear.
Well, for the beginning of the game, it's perfectly fine. It's really good to throw at short arm in tier 1 for Final Kefka, and that's about it.
Yeah, it is water elemental, but there's not very many bosses that are weak to water.
Yep.
Mechanical bosses are.
And the short arm, I think, are, well, I think there's a couple others, maybe a tentacle or something, but actually I think they both top 2 absorb. I don't know, we'll get there. But yeah, not a whole lot of options.
Odin, Magicite, coming out from our Velt check over there from Gao. Odin will insta-kill anything on screen that can be insta-killed, but also has a chance to miss. Has Life 3 and Berserk on there. I saw very quickly Berserk is probably only useful for 1 boss and 1 boss only, or if you're in the Fanatic's Tower and you have non-magic users. Life 3 is great for re-raising your characters if things go sideways, and Thorn looks like he's hopping into the Serpent Trench, while Mr. E looks to be outside of something holding up a house.
So, going back to Berserk a little bit, there is, I think, well, most people know, but in case it wasn't obvious, that Magimaster is the one you're looking for when casting Berserk. However, you can also use it against a dragon or 2 to eliminate them casting some nasty spells, so it can come in handy for that. And if you happen to find something like, they already have a offering, if you find something like Fixed Ice, you can take advantage of Berserk on your own party. It will increase damage for something like that. So there are a few uses. It's actually a really good spell to have in case you need it. You just often, well, maybe not often, but sometimes you don't. So, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yep, and it's 15,000 for what the Shady Dude is selling over in to Zen. Don't know if that's an Esper or not yet, because we're in the World of Ruin. It only tells you in the World of Balance whether or not it's an Esper or an item, as Mystery is getting caught up on some villagers. But we do see Setzer holding up the house there, and Gigantos in the Serpent Trench, and that's why you want to have the Mirage Vest with the Berserk or the image status here, as Gao just keeps missing. I think he is also raged with Flare Star, so this is kind of on autopilot.
He's really making that Mirage Vest do some work here. He's not losing those images at all. I believe it's a 25, I want to say 25%, maybe 50% chance to lose an image every time you get hit. So that was fairly impressive.
It feels like 100% of the time when you're actually playing now. He does get by that one battle. Gigantos is the single most XP rich battle except for a double Gigantos, and here is one that should be pretty easy. Paralobos. Realm and Sabin, unfortunately, taking a nap, won't get that XP. Mr.Entity is going to get himself a Setzer. So that opens up 3 different checks. It opens up the Auto Doom Gaze check, the Collagen In check, which is not a battle, and the Daryl's Tomb check. So we'll see if he decides to go there. Has lore and natural magic. We'll see if there are any decent lores to start, but lore is another one of those abilities that in the early game is probably not going to help out unless you have Blowfish, but usually that costs a lot to gas.
It's when another place where an economizer will come in really handy. Haven't seen one yet. They're actually fairly common in seeds where you don't want one, and then when you do, you'll never find one. But at least they do have some other options.
It's either money or never found, and this is a run for the level 30 magic there mob. The level magic mobs will only grant magic points, won't grant any experience. So if you really, really need to learn a spell, then it's fine to fight them, but otherwise, yeah, you run away. Looks like
nasty fights too. Most people just opt to nope out of them for good reason.
Siren Esper over on Mr.Entity's screen at the Collagen Inn. That'll be helpful for the second tier of Kefka. The Esper summon will summon Mute for everything on the screen, and hilariously, the magic and magic only caster in that tier is susceptible to Mute, which means it will do nothing afterwards. So, always a good Esper to see whenever you find it. Realm with 3 HP and a Dream over on Thorn's screen. See if can actually stay up during this fight. And the Curse of the Commentator.
Yeah, it might be a bit of an over-reliance on the rage here. It will work, but if you can't keep your other characters up, they're going to fall way behind, and you're going to have trouble in the future boss fights. So I would probably be concentrating a little bit more on trying to keep them up, but then again, it's only a couple grind fights, so there's still plenty of time to catch back up.
Yeah, especially when one of Sabin's checks, Imperial Camp, is a set of fixed encounters. So I'm guessing that's where we'll go next, as we have the Alexander Esper at the end of the Serpent Trench with Ice 3 and a couple of other Tier 2 spells. I think one was Cure 2, so that's a really good one to have.
+2 bonus on it as well, which will come in handy for a jumper.
Yeah, let Realm, whenever Realm gets back up off the ground, learn all that. Aegis Shield getting picked out of the hole in the wall. Strago's bedroom, he's been punching holes in the wall, getting very angry, so apparently he stuck a shield in there to prevent the drafts. This is Thamasa, so again, all of the chests are the same in Thamasa in either world, but the shops are different. As we see, the Ikea clock is some dark gear. I think that's good for a jumper, right? That gives speed bonus. If Sabin can equip it, obviously. Auto crossbow is not very good as a tool, even though you have Bioblaster, right? So in Thorn, like I thought he might, is going to head into the Imperial Camp here. Wants to go all the way down to the lower level to heal up his party, perhaps, before heading into Imperial Camp.
Still doing some shopping on Mr.Entity's side. We're kind of tied up here with 5 total progressions, you could call them. And Thorn is going to check out the Imperial Camp, which, like you said, is just basically fixed encounters. There are no bosses here. up to 4 fights, and Mr. E is going to go. Did he find himself some dried meat, or is he going straight to the that thing, serpent trench? That's the thing.
Well, I know that Thorn found dried meat. I'm assuming that Mr.Entity did as well. Pulls an Illumina out of the box next to this monster in a box, and we'll put it on Sabin. Is going to revivify the Spectre here and get a hyper risk, so that'll also be good for Sabin. So Imperial Camp, if you can't come back to it, so if you can't beat the monster in the box and you really want it for later, you're going to have to do it now. Nothing in the back chest there, as we now are going to see what the reward will be after this particular fight. If it is just an item, then you'll get the item right here and now. If it is an Esper, you will see an NPC, or if it's a character, you'll see that particular character sprite. Mr.Entity is going to grab himself his Odin Esper here once he feeds the meat to the imp. And we got a pretty even race so far. Mr.Entity does have one more piece of Magicite, but Thorn did go through the Serpent Trench and has some levels, whereas Mr. E is sitting, I believe, on level 3 for all of his characters.
Worth pointing out that Thorn is going to want to put an Esper or an Elemental Shield or something of a magical nature on Sabin to take full advantage of those critical hits. The auto crits come from that Illumina. If you don't have any spells learned, it won't crit. So, or rather, if you have even equipping an Esper is fine. But something interesting here, you certainly can jump with an Illumina. When you have a Dragon Horn, it'll do the bounces, and you'll still get the 1.5 times damage. However, you do lose out on the auto crits, and since he doesn't have any spells learned, or basically virtually any MP right now, it might be fine. Or maybe he did learn some spells, and he doesn't have enough MP, but. One thing to take into account is you do get the 1.5 times damage for jump, but you won't get those auto crits. So it's a choice to be made. Right now it's probably fine because he doesn't have another character that's probably good for the Illumina, but my preference would be as soon as he does find one to switch that off and jump using something else.
Yeah, I believe when we saw his menu, he had 30 MP, and I believe critical hits will eat 20 MP at a time, so unless you have more than 20 MP, you won't get the double damage with the Illumina. So it's probably fine to be doing this now, but later on you're going to want a different weapon. Actually almost any other weapon. It's really one of the exceptions for jumping with an Illumina. Because if you swing it normally, you're guaranteed to get twice as much damage. So,
however, in a fight like this, when he's jumping, as y'all just saw, he hit 4 times, 4 different enemies, which just swinging one Illumina won't do. However, swinging the one might have killed one. So there's a little trade-off, but yeah, definitely not the optimal weapon to use.
Mr. Eve getting the Gigantos fight here, and already has a downed Setzer. We'll see if he can pull through this. It's a lot of XP if he does, but remember, he also got all of those rewards without leveling up any of his characters, so this will be an interesting battle here. We are going to get an Esper out of the Imperial Camp, because we saw the Ghost Sprite. I think, one more battle, and Thorn will get the reward here, and it looks like that's a reset out of the Serpent Trench for Mr. E. Probably going to have to go get some grind fights somewhere else. I'm guessing Imperial Camp. Odin has Strength +1 on it as well, so that's good for your jumper to have. Speed would be optimal, but Strength is always good as well. Yep, it looks like Mr. E is going to follow Thorn into the Imperial Camp. And there's the Flare Star from IO. That was, I think, the only rage that I saw that was any decent when we pulled up Gao's menu. And we're getting the Starlit Magicite from the Imperial Camp, and we're going to check it right away. It's got X-Zone and Break, things that can be used in the final battle to kill off a couple of parts, but not really great other than that.
He's took off his Moogle Charm and is going to do some grind fights outside the camp to make sure he has the levels before he goes in and potentially dies, halfway or near the end of the check, like what happened in the Serpent Trench. So can take a few fights and then go in. Probably not a bad strategy, although I prefer to do my grind fights. As long as you're in the open world, might as well go to World of Ruin Narsh, so you have both a save point and a health bucket nearby. Of course, it depends on what the random encounters are.
We see Thorn hopping into Barren Falls. It will give you a heal right before this fight, so no reason to heal up. And we have the cranes. So one crane absorbs lightning and one crane absorbs fire. My little mnemonic device I use to remember this is left loves lightning, so don't put your lightning spell on the left crane, but if you have ice, that works for either or, so we'll see that. Flare Star will probably heal the one on the right. There it is. Yep, that's
Fraser fears fire. Just remember the one that Fraser is the one on the left, and Miles is the one on the right.
There you go. So noping out of that cranes fight. If you don't have the tools to do it, but he does have ice, so relying on Flare Star, as you said, a lot will also not help in that particular fight where one of the bosses does absorb fire. You could actually go left in the Phantom Forest, as we see Thorn here. There is a water pool, and unfortunately runs into a couple of ninjas, which is never a fun fight.
Yeah, this is not gonna be pretty. Yep, nope, we're out of there too. But you can put a Moogle Charm back on and make it all the way through. I think he just forgot to re-equip it.
Yeah, it would be nice to beat that battle, because the ninjas will give you the Water Edge Rage, or the ability when you use Rage, which will be, again, decent for bosses that are weak to water, like those aforementioned cranes, but he is going to instead this time equip the Moogle Charm and head into the Phantom Forest and see what's on the train. You can peek what the reward is by going into the caboose of the train. You can actually obtain the reward there, and you can't obviously get it unless you beat the boss at the end, but it's always good to have right now. If you go back in here, and it is some Genji armor, so dead check, that's another reset.
One of the longer checks in the game, definitely not worth doing if it's not something either you need or something really great. And a Genji armor is not either of those things.
Yeah. There is a monster in a box on the Phantom Train, but we already have an offering. We found one in the Narsh shed, so it's not really necessary. And there are a few treasure chests in there. There is one required fight, so you can use it to level up if you really want to, but I think most people would probably prefer just walking around outside of Narsh and get the heal bucket. As we see Mr.Entity picking up the Illumina and going, oh goodness gracious, who can equip it? And we'll see who he puts it on. Sabin as well, that jumping pogo stick Illumina user. Thorn going back into Barren Falls. This time we'll hopefully not be using that IO Rage, and see if better luck the second time.
Mr.Entity, let's see. Setzer has lore. I probably would have seen if he could equip the Illumina, but it could be a case of Sabin doesn't really have anything useful to jump with right now anyway, so you don't necessarily need to make use of jump, although he's going to anyway. You could just swing away and then switch it out when you find a nice lance, but why not use both? See if Setzer can use that Illumina. Of course, there's, a very good chance that he can.
Yeah, I think the other item they were using was the Falchion, which is it's a mid to upper tier sword, but it's not great,
Yeah, mid tier. I mean the Illumina as it stands is a stat stick when you're jumping with it, so it's technically better. But he did just swing it there. So. And he did find that Blowfish Rage. I didn't see which particular rage he used to do it, but that will certainly work out better than Flare Star in this particular instance.
Yep.
Actually, early game Blowfish is a great thing to have. When the rest of your characters are putting out 2 to 400 damage, you do a guaranteed 1,000 every time.
Yeah, so either Cactrot or Phase or Brain Pan. So it looks like Franklin says Brain Pan in the chat, so
I
that
believe
will
that
do
one
your-
turns you undead, though, right?
One of them does. Another dead check, but it is a Genji glove, and we have Atma weapons for sale, and we have one Atma weapon and an offering. So there's an end game build right there if anybody wants to go take it. 2 dead checks in a row, unfortunately for Thorn. Between the Genji armor in the Phantom Train and the Genji glove in Barren Falls, it looks like we're going to go do Esper Mountain here, which is one of Realm's checks. You can see what the reward is from the character that is running away from you as you're going through the mountain, so we'll see if this is a character or not here. Sprint shoes, useless in Worlds Collide, because everybody sprints by default. That is an imp, I believe, so that means this is going to be either an Esper or item. And we see Mr. E grinding through the Imperial camp, going to get his Magicite Alexander, I think, at the end of this. I don't remember which one now.
Sounds right. I can't remember.
We have a cheat sheet for a reason, right? No, Serpent Trench is Alexander. This is Starlet. Tunnel armor at this spot. This is not something that is going to be a problem. And there you see, early levels you can only cast one with magic. You saw Realm was out of MP after just one fire too. So that'll happen.
Yeah, early. As far as non-instant killable bosses goes, Tunnel Armor is the biggest pushover. I guess you could still make an argument he's the biggest pushover, even if you could instant death, or you couldn't instant death anybody else. But there are technically bosses you can kill quicker, but not many.
Yeah. Leader actually will hurt you with axe as a counter, but he could be instantly killed. We got the Golem Esper, which is great for the final fight. That will block. Oh, magic power +2 on that as well. That's
Life
a great
3,
Esper.
it's a nice Esper. The seed is actually fairly generous so far. Maybe not with the not as much with the dead checks or the check luck, but pretty good arsenal of stuff so far. Hopefully should make the end game a little easier.
Yep, so Golem will block physical damage for the amount of damage that the caster's HP has. So that'll be good on the 3rd tier against Kefka, because it'll block a counterattack that is an instant death physical. So we'll want to use that in the final battle, besides just being a good Esper with magic power +2. And Thorn looks like he's going to mount Cults, which is another one of Sabin's checks. It's probably the longest check other than the Phantom Train, and you can't see the reward here, but it's still pretty quick in the pantheon of checks that need to be done.
Yep, timing from entry to boss fight is only about just over 1 minute if you skip the chest, so it's really not a long check, not terrible. There is a save point before the boss, so you can give it another go if you want, but yeah, as we see, most people just skip it. Because if it's something you can't kill, you probably just want to go somewhere else anyway.
Yeah, I would probably have taken that to heal up Realm, or not heal up Realm, but refill her magic, because I don't think she has enough to cast anything, right? Because I didn't see any healing or items happening between now and then, but Tech Barrier going up when one of the cranes goes down means that it casts Reflect on itself, which is going to be not a fun time for MrEntity trying to cast Sleep on on his own characters here.
He went with the IO Rage as well, like Thorn did earlier, and he's healing up the boss, so he's trying to stop Gas.
Oh, he's trying to
ruining everything.
Speaking of Leader, here's Leader, the pushover. Can be X-zoned. We have the X-zone spell, but whacking it a few times with an Illumina will also do the trick. As we see simultaneous boss kills. Seraphim Esper coming out from Mount Kulse. MrEntity will get the Genji glove, and Thorn is looking for character number 3. So even though character number 4 rather. So even though both of our runners have the same amount of rewards, 8 in total, Thorn only has 3 characters, so he has less checks available to him than does MrEntity. At this point, I think Thorn's options are Bowser's Mansion and That's it.
I think that's the collapsing house is what he is.
Oh,
we know
collapsing
where
house, correct.
Setzer is.
Yep.
So that seems like where he's on his way to now. He'll get his 4th character, but yeah, we don't know what's behind. We don't know what's in Owser's mansion yet.
Right, or Kefket Marsh. However, since this seed does not
I believe
have...
we won't be seeing that.
No, probably not. Probably not. However, since we do have the no free progression flag turned off, the World of Ruin Jador is that much more enticing, because not only can you do Realms Check, but you can also go to the auction house for Espers if you are feeling lucky and if you have some money. So you can kind of combine that into multiple checks at once if runners want to do that. So maybe that's why he's holding off on it. Owser's Mansion's also a little slow with 2 forced encounters in it, but I like coupling it with a trip to the auction house to get more value out of it. Tunnel armor over here on Mr. E's side. Blink and you miss it. It is actually a dragon horn. That is the Zen Thief item. So if we could find some dragoon boots, we have 2 jumpers in or potential pogo stick jumpers in the seed. So Boo, you better download the seed while you can so you can rerun it.
So as long as we can come up with Edgar or Mog somewhere in the seed, then you're pretty much all set, because they are guaranteed to be able to equip any lance.
Mr. E checking out a couple of chests in the back of Esper Mountain. There's 2 chests on this path and 1 chest on the other path. Most people normally just warp out afterwards, or will warp out after taking the 2, because to get to the 3rd one, you have to go all the way back to that other room and fall back down again, watch your character dust himself off and try again, and then go back.
Usually not worth it for 1 chest.
Nope. As we see,
although if you do leave it behind, it does contain an Illumina, as we all know.
Yeah, of course. Some pugs over on Thorn's screen for the Monster in a Box have a chance of dropping Minervas, each of them. It's not a very good chance, but there is a chance, and Minervas are one of the most powerful defensive pieces of gear in the game. They absorb 4 different elements, I think, right? Pearl, and then the 3 main ones, Fire, Ice, Bolt. And they have damage from the other 4, Poison,
and they give you a lot of MP.
Yep. So let's see, drum roll, please. Do we have pugs?
1/8 chance from each of the pugs, and yeah, that's about my luck as well. Nothing.
You do get 25 magic points, so that's pretty decent for learning some spells, and there are some really good spells so far in this seed. Mr. E taking a second dip into the Serpent Trench, so both of our runners having to do checks a second time here after running into the walls. Mr. E should be fine now with being powered up. Level 3 is annoying for Gigantos, so he'll survive here. Thorn will get their Setzer. It will be interesting to see.
Sorry, I believe Gigantos can be X-zoned.
I don't know, but Vanish is a good idea. So Vanish will prevent any physical attacks, but any magic attacks will always hit. But Gigantos doesn't have any magic attacks, so that's a good strategy for Gigantos, is to use Vanish on your party.
Yep. Although
X-Zone
and just kill him.
And be done with it. Yep. Weak to X-Zone and Noise Blaster. So we did see Mr. E trying Noise Blaster earlier, and it didn't work. I just wasn't sure if it wasn't in the cards or if it was just an unlucky miss. And it seemed like it was an unlucky miss. So,
Setzer for Thorn now.
Only Antidote on Seraphim, so that's a useless Esper. Does heal your party if it's cast, so if you've got nothing else for the final battle and you need a cure spell, that's your one and only cure spell, you can take it. Looks like he's headed over towards World of Ruin Jador. We go through Owser's Mansion, maybe into the auction house as well, and then we'll probably do a loop up to Kolingen Inn and Daryl's Tomb. So the route's playing out pretty nicely in terms of proximity here for Thorn, doing Collapsing House towards the end. Right, he did all of the World of Balance stuff first, and is now doing World of Ruin. See if there's anything in Jador here.
Flying so far. I believe he does have a lot of cash. I didn't see exactly how much. We'll check here. Oh, nope, I was dead wrong. He must have spent it.
Yeah.
I thought I saw he had a bunch. Maybe he spent it on something, but I was going to say he could just waltz right into the... Oh, he's getting Chancellor hard in front of Bowser's mansion here.
Get out of my way. I'm here to see the art. Zombone over on Mr.Entity's screen, one of the enemies you really want to see, especially early in the game, because you can revivify it. Don't throw the piece of Magicite. That's not a good idea. Imagine accidentally casting Crusader instead of revivifying. Also, on Thorn's screen, 2 carcasses also are undead enemies, so you can use Revivify on those. So, tip to newer runners out there, learn your undead enemies, because they'll be pretty easy to kill off, and most of them are good for XP. There's one of the 2 forced encounters here in Bowser's Mansion. Mr.Entity is going to get Alexander after the Serpent Trench. And yeah, I think the comment in the chat was 50,000 GP on Thorn. I think that was a bet and not a statement of how much money they have.
That's where I saw that number. All right. Makes sense now.
Well, they've got some decent things. They've got some decent items. You could sell a bunch to get into the auction house. And depending upon how your luck is, you might not need that much. So the Chitnoid enemy is pretty annoying because they can sneeze you away and just basically say, no XP for you this fight. The Woolly enemy there absorbs pretty much everything except for fire, I think, but is a great rage. A great rage because they will cast Ice 3. So if we're going to continue to lean on Gao, this will be a good rage to have for Thorn here. Because
nobody should, ever.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using Rage in the final battle, like I was on one of my practice seeds, you should be looking for offense elsewhere. Second of the fixed encounters there in Bowser's Mansion, and we'll walk up and see who's painting the picture here. And it's a merchant, so that means this is not a character. Who is the boss? It is a Flame Eater, and we have Ice 3. Yeah, we've got Ice 3 all over, so this shouldn't be a problem. Mr.Entity is going to Malkuth.
Making use of the Woolly Rage already.
Yep. So with Rages, since you kind of take on the properties of whatever monster you are using, in this case, Woolly absorbs almost all of the elements except for fire, and unfortunately with Flame Eater, that's going to be a fire. Blowfish coming out for Setzer. I guess he's got nothing better to do. Ouch. Fire Scheme, definitely not helping.
I don't believe a Pearl Proc is going to do much good on Flame Eater here, but it still does good base damage. But again, I don't know. Maybe they've both checked and Setzer can't use that Illumina. But the main goal for me in this, if I was running this, would be find somebody else who can equip that Illumina, so I can make use of, because their offensive options outside of casting with Realm and Sabin jumping is not great right now. Granted, you have to find the characters first, so not much you can do about that right at the moment.
Right. Yeah, we have praying to the RN Jesus for Gao with his rages. We do have Atma weapons and offering. Ramu is the Magicite there for Thorn after Bowser's Mansion.
Hey, and we'd have a raid coming in, the bottom tier. Thank you very much for the raid.
Hey. So yeah, it doesn't look like Thorn is going to be going to the auction house. Nope. I figured unless he's coming out to save, it looks like he's not going to try his luck. He's already got a bunch of Espers. He's really looking for characters at this point.
Yep, might not be worth yet. However, if you're planning on doing this skip, well, at least worth noting to come back later, but there is a school of thought that hitting these early auction house plays can be good, because you might, well, not only do you get quick access to Espers, which can lead to more magic and utility, that it might give you a leg up on the competition because they probably aren't going to do the same thing. So but then again, it's 2 progressions, well, potentially up to 2 progressions with no fighting. So you have to make sure you're not behind the scaling already, because that can be quite dangerous in a progression times 3 flag set like this is.
Yeah, it looks like on Mr. E's screen we learned arrow for Setzer's lore somewhere along the way. One other thing about an earlier auction house is the Esper bonus. There's a drill for O'Toole's users, so now Gao could use drill on Thorn's screen instead of relying on, some rages. Anyway, about the auction house, there also are bonuses on Espers, right? And the earlier you have them, the more the bonus gets, because those speed plus, strength plus, and magic power plus Espers, but if you have them at lower levels, they'll accrue more than at higher levels. With the percentage type of bonuses, those are better to stick on your characters at higher levels, because normally your magic power and your health is higher at those higher levels, so you get an even bigger bonus. As we see a floating octopus in the sky here.
4 should see a... I don't remember what check we're at here. I don't think this is vanilla, but it kind of looks vanilla. But potentially accompanied by Mr. Choop, unless, of course... Okay, there it is.
Yeah,
I was going to say this could potentially be Ultros 3. I didn't see the beginning of the fight, but here we are. Not going to get any experience points or really anything from this fight, so unfortunately it's just kind of a waste of time, but them's the breaks.
Yeah,
and I do want to point out for any new viewers here that we are in the first round, the round of 16 of our Tiny Winter Tournament. This is a small tournament, kind of community-focused tournament we're running this month, or rather, I should say this week, before our big tournament in February, so look out for that. I posted the bracket in the chat if you want to follow along. Been running we just started today, but runners are free to run their races at their leisure, so we've already run a bunch of them today, and they'll be running for over the next couple days here until we get to the finals, which will take place this next Friday, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, it's been a great day of watching Worlds Collide anyway. Aloe Vera over on Thorn's screen is undead and will grant Tiger Fangs, which is normally Sabin's most powerful weapon. Would you jump with Tiger Fangs versus jumping with an Illumina? I guess if you could put the Illumina on somebody else, you would have by then.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like I was saying, at that point, it's pretty much a stat stick, and I don't remember what the base damage for Tiger Fangs are, but it can't be too far off of an Illumina, so...
Yeah, plus it also gives us...
Trade it out, yeah.
It also gives strength bonus and speed bonus, and it's Tiger Fangs is probably the best stat stick that you could have, other than an enhancer for a magic user, I would think. But we'll see what the reward is here at the end of Daryl's tomb, as we see Unicorn Esper coming out from the Doomgaze spot. It went by so fast. There are 5 different spells on it though, so it's a pretty loaded in terms of quantity Esper. I don't know about quality though.
I was actually looking at Thorn's screen, so I didn't see the spells, and I noticed that Thorn he's going for the Atma weapon now, which isn't going to be great damage at level 21, but it'll do okay. But I noticed he opted to not go with the offering just yet. So I wonder if that was intentional, because he knows the damage isn't going to be great, or if he just forgot. But hopefully we'll see those. Oh, he did. Okay, I thought he picked Io for a second.
Yeah. So this is Ifrit. Absorbs fire, weak to ice, and then if you hit Ifrit with 5 physical attacks, it'll switch to Shiva, which is the opposite, absorbs ice and is weak to fire, but 2 hits and that's dead. So that was a pretty easy one, and the Fenrir Esper, I believe, was the reward on the tomb. So another great Esper for later on in the game, and we are dwindling down the amount of places we're going to have for our character. I'm pretty sure we are at Kefka Arshir.
I'm trying to think of any other checks we haven't done. I think we've already checked Phantom Train, that was dead. We've searched the skies, can't be a character. Yeah, I think you might be right. I think it's another Kefka at Narsh seed, which I happen to know Mr. Entity will loathe. That is his least favorite deck in the game. and he's about to be upset.
Upsetty spaghetti, for sure. So yeah, we see the friendly octopus in the sky is weak to fire. The Chupon coming in is weak to ice. So this should be not a problem because we have both fire and ice magic. It's just a matter of hitting the right targets. That's the thing about queuing up your attacks on this particular boss, is that you will hit Ultros, which doesn't matter. You really need to hit Chupon. So a little bit of waiting might be the way to go here, and party manipulation, so you don't waste valuable turns beating up Ultros, which doesn't matter. There you see the quad 9s from the ice, sneezing everybody away, and that will be the Unicorn Esper for Thorn. And he is, well, he already knew the bad news after checking the tomb, but he now really sets in his head that he's got to go back to World of Balance Narsh in order to see who's at the top. I would love for it to be Mog, because then you'd have to walk all the way back down just to activate Lone Wolf and walk all the way back up.
All the way back up.
I'm pretty evil. I think we could have some predictions in the chat. Which character you think will be waiting for us at Kefket Narsh? Go, chat, go.
Let's see. Even Javinator there, hi Javinator, really wants to see Mog.
Yep. Everybody's as evil as me. I hope that doesn't happen when I run this. So me and Seto are set for our first matchup tomorrow night. He is out of town today, so that was the earliest we could do it. I was like, oh, tomorrow night's not so bad. Meanwhile, we're already like, everybody else has already run their matches, and now I'm like, great, I'm the one holding up everybody.
I think one pair might already, well, at least they're almost to round 3 already. They're really cranking it out today.
Yep. There's one of those things, one of those schools of thought about doing too many seeds, all in a row and get your head mixed up. That certainly happens to me sometimes. I'm definitely guilty of that, so. But it is what it is. We've got to get these done, and so far it's been great as a viewer to watch all the different streams that have been going on today. So thank you, Boo, for helping to organize the tournament. It's been a lot of fun so far, even though the qualifying seed was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, that qualifier was pretty rough, but if you could get through the qualifier, you can probably get through any of the race seeds, so, hopefully.
Yeah, some of the times that we've been seeing are way shorter than our qualifier, and all of them have been very close races too, which just goes to show you the competition here in the community is getting thinner and thinner, which is great, especially from a viewing experience. So, drum roll, please. Who's at the top of Narsh? Oh, it is Grandpa Strago.
I think Green Monkey called it.
All right. Imaginary internet points for you, Green Monkey. We're going with dual Atma weapon Setzer, so Setzer could actually be of some use, but level 24, I think it's still a little bit too low for Atma weapon. We do have the flag that is stronger Atma weapon. Basically, without doing a lot of math, you normally divide your level by 64 in the base damage, and we reduced it to 32 so that it would be useful in the randomizer, because a lot of the time the Atma weapon was just, a cash stick in most seeds, so now it actually is getting some use.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing in the early days of the randomizer to see, because everybody loves the Atma weapon from the, well, I don't know about everybody, but it's a cool weapon from the original game. Looks like the lightsaber. It changes its bright based on amount of damage, all that sort of stuff, and but yeah, in the randomizer, you just don't get up to in the level 60s and 70s unless you're really trying to punish yourself. So our creator, Atmatech, fixed his Atma weapon,
Ooh.
And everybody's happy now.
Thorn went for the soldier skip and got nipped at the very last second by the...
by the rider.
Yeah. So
shouldn't be a big deal, though.
For soldier skip, you're going to want to start going towards or past the second line of soldiers when the rider, which is the character that's going back and forth, starts heading back to the right and is past the second or third soldier. You could sneak in there and then be fine. We have Inferno at home is the boss here, and you see the lightsabers aren't very big, but when you're swinging for 8 times, because we have Genji Glove and Offering, 5 times 8 is what? 500 times 8 is 3,500 damage? No. What's
4,000.
4,000. Sorry, I can't math on stream.
That's all right. Nobody likes math.
The problem is it's uncontrollable, right? So you can't, or untargetable rather, but with all the arms out of the way, we can start smashing down the regular piece here, and we're going to get our Strago. And it'll be curious to see if Thorn pulls Strago in or not, because Gao has been putting in work with this Io rage and with the Woolly rage, but that's also uncontrollable and unpredictable. We have had a lot of decent magic spells, so you can even keep Gowan as a magic caster, and he's got tools, so there is some utility there. It all depends on what Strago has, what abilities. And are we going to get a check? It is control, yikes, so Grandpa's probably going to be riding the bench again.
I would still probably, if it was me, I'd still see if he could equip that Illumina. But then again, we've got Atma Weapon. We're in Atma Weapon territory now, so it's less important. But still, I think since you happen to have a natural jumper with a Dragon Horn already, it might be worth checking. But maybe trivial at this point.
Question from the chat: if someone were interested in racing, which flag settings do you recommend they practice on? So on the website there is a standard race preset that is 7 characters, 10 espers for the goal, which has been the standard for a while. We are in the process of revamping what those requirements are to lower the times that it takes for somebody to complete a seed. So we're evolving that. This tournament actually is based on some of that evolution of testing that we're doing. That's why you see the 6-8 requirements, but there's also the 7-10 skip. Looks like Mr.Entity is heading off towards the auction house to see if he can grab some espers.
There are no espers available at the auction house.
There are not.
I believe
okay.
I saw. Yeah, he went in and checked, and no espers available, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, to touch on what you were talking about, standard race preset is pretty good for learning the game. But yes, those flags are being revamped. Probably it's going to be a little while until they, we want to do adequate testing, and there's some more things to consider for that. But if you want to kind of get into more of a modern, because those standard race flag preset was created quite a while ago. So if you want to get into a little more modern touch, you would turn off things like rods in shops, and you can play with no free progression. A couple of these flags are newer than the preset, so hopefully we'll see a new preset soon of some sort. These flags we're running here is not the preset. It's just, like Schwantz was saying, part of the testing, and it was a flag set that some people enjoyed. But anyway, we'll see that pretty soon. But it's definitely a good set to practice with.
Yep, Mr. E getting the bad news that we have a Kefkat Narsh seed. Burning House for Thorn here. Burning House has a bunch of dodgeable but not so dodgeable encounters. If you've ever seen the vanilla base game, you know that these flames go back and forth. And we have some memery on stream. There it is, Mr. E telling us how he feels about the Kefkat Narsh stream. The Kefkat Narsh seed.
Feels bad, man.
And he's going to feel even worse when it's Strago at the top. Strago notorious in the community for having some of the least favorable checks in the game. Burning House is one where there's a bunch of fixed encounters. Then there's Ebbets Rock, which you need to gather up some materials from basically an RNG dungeon, and people do not like RNG in a speedrun. And there's Fanatic's Tower, which the gimmick of Fanatic's Tower is that you can only use magic in the tower. And like other Final Fantasy games, it seems that Square Enix used to love stairs back in this time frame. Because there's stairs in this game, and there's stairs in the next one, too.
The good news is, I just peeked at MrEntity's levels, and he's already heading towards the mid-30s. I think he's in the low-mid 30s right now, and he's still got at least 2 more characters to find. So considering he had to do a couple fixed encounter checks, that bumped his levels pretty nicely, and he shouldn't be, well, he's already going to be at a minimum of 9 espers, so he'll probably, well, we'll have to see how many characters he finds in short order, but may go for the skip. But the good news is his levels are good enough to where he may not have to, so it'll be interesting to see if they decide to go for the skip or not.
Yeah, with 9 espers already, it seems likely that we're going to do the skip, especially with how powerful we've been seeing the skip being with some of the other races here, because you can sort of warp out and reform your party to send them all down the same line if it becomes much easier with the bosses in the tower that way than fighting them with only 2 characters at a time, right?
It becomes safer for sure.
I don't know about faster, but
yeah, there's a bit of time involved in warping out and coming back in and going back down the paths and things, but it definitely makes for safer fights, and it gets all of your party more experience. So the only downside is they're going to have to find an extra character and an extra esper at this point. So they'll have to see if it's worth it to them to go searching around, or if they just want to go straight to Kefka's Tower. But I think you're right. My guess would be they're going to at least try for it, maybe do a couple checks to get the 7th character. But depends on, if you hit 2 or 3 dead checks in a row or started getting more espers, then you'll probably just say screw it and move on. Otherwise, it kind of feels like you're behind the 8 ball.
Looks like we got a character at Burning House with the vanilla interceptor animation here. Who's coming to save us out of the house? It is the Yeetie! Another another character with just 1 check, so you can peek it on the way up to the top of World of Balance, Narsh. I didn't see it the first time around, if there was a character in there or not. I don't believe there was, so that means that the reward at Umaro's check is either an esper or an item, so not worth going to that particular place. So we're still down to Fanatic's Tower and Ebbett's Rock for our 7th character if Thorn chooses to go that particular route. Definitely if it was a different character, if it was one that say had some free progression like Locke or maybe Terra, we would be looking at perhaps doing the skip, but now that we have Yeti, we'll see what Thorn decides to do here, because it is 1 more character and 1 more piece of magic. It looks like they're going to
go fight some dragons to get the levels, and you typically do this dragon right before you want to go into KT, so we might see him head right in, but then again, Realm and Scepter's levels are pretty meh, so could be just getting some quick levels before heading to do a couple more checks. We'll have to see.
Yeah, there's some great spells in the pool here. There's Bolt 3 on one of those pieces of magic. Unicorn, I think, had Cure 2 on it. So definitely a magic-heavy seed, this seed, in spite of having Atma weapons for sale and finding Illumina in Imperial Camp. Yeah,
I think I saw all 3 tier 3 spells on those, plus a magic power, plus 1 esper. So, and plus Realm has natural X magic. So Realm is going to be one of your big damage dealers here for sure. I would probably make it a priority to go back and get some Atma weapons, because we already have a Genji Glove, we already have an offering. And that'll be your, and then, as you mentioned, we have an Illumina, so your damage is pretty much covered at this point.
Yep, 63k for the Tizen Thief in World of Balance, so it's definitely cheaper in the World of Ruin. I guess the the prospects of having sellers dry up after Kefka ends the world, right? Gold Dragon over on Thorn's screen.
I wonder if Mr.Entity noticed that it was not an esper. Clearly he's not going to buy it because it's super expensive, but in World of Balance it'll also tell you if it's an esper or not, and it told him it's not. And interestingly, there were no espers in the auction house, which means all the free, the quote free espers are dead. That's fairly rare. Yeah.
Gold Dragon going down over here for Thorn. In this particular flag set, dragons are scaled based on whatever your progression is, or based on the scaling, rather. And the scaling in this particular set of options is progress times 3, so that's why that Gold Dragon went down a lot faster than you would normally see. Gold Dragon obviously absorbs lightning. Gets a Flame Shield as a reward, so elemental shields are always very nice to have. Mr. E is going to head into Fanatic's Tower with Gao in his party. And interestingly, since Gao it's not a character, so he's noping out of it, you can see at the bottom of Fanatic's Tower whether the reward is a character or an Esper. Since Gao does not actually have a fight command, so the gimmick is it changes fight into magic. So since Gao doesn't have a fight command, the only thing that Gao can actually do is use items in Fanatic's Tower, which is never a fun thing.
So we do have at least we have an Esper with the Berserk spell on it. So you could Berserk him?
Yep, you definitely could. And it looks like Thorn is going to go into Ebbets Rock. We got simultaneous Ebbets Rock checks here, 1 hour and 2 minutes into the seed. So this is still a close one. It's still anybody's game here. Thorn is slightly ahead with an extra character, and will get his final or 7th character rather in this particular check. As we know, it's not a Umaro's check. We already saw Burning House, and we saw the reward at the bottom of Fanatic's Tower is not a character. You need 22 pieces of coral, so Thorn is going to have to collect a bit more coral before going into here. And you don't actually have to talk to the chest every time. You could just go down to the tile and just leave that particular room. I don't know if Thorn knows
in the
that
habit of just kind of holding up. Or at least not knowing where you are. Yeah, kind of like that. After, running this a bunch of times and seeing it, you'll kind of recognize what room you're in and just know to hit down. But yeah, it does take some muscle memory. Or rather, opposite of muscle memory. I don't know.
So there are 3 static rooms that are in this check. There's the entrance room, the save point room, and the chest room. So those 3 rooms are always the same, and then all of the other rooms that you can be teleported to are randomly generated, kind of, how No Man's Sky randomly generates planets or whatever. And you can tell on the loading time of those randomly generated rooms is slightly longer than those standard entrance, save point, coral chest room. So that's how you could sometimes tell which room you're in. If it's a standard room, the room will load a lot faster than the generated ones, as we see the 3 Stooges over on Mr. E's side.
The X Zone, who is it, Larry on the bottom left? He is susceptible to instant death, but X Zone is not particularly accurate, so abandon that strategy. You got to kill, well, you don't have to, but it's a very good idea to kill Curly first, because he can life to the other Stooges right back, and then it's easy peasy from here. Interestingly, if you kill Curly and then you start working on Mo here, Larry can sometimes run away just on his own. But then if you take too long killing Mo, he just comes right back. So I thought that's kind of an interesting mechanic.
Yep. As we see, Mr. E is going to tell us who our next character is, and it's Celeste.
Celeste, nice.
Yeah, so the Stooges fight, we'll see it again on Thorn's screen. There are 3 different Stooges, 1 each with an elemental power. The top Stooge, which is the one that will bring the other ones back to life, is a fire Stooge, so absorbs fire, is weak to ice. The one in the back that sometimes runs away is an ice Stooge, weak to fire, absorbs ice. And the one in front he absorbs bolt and is not weak to either of the other elements. So easy to tell which is which based on their clothing. Red is fire, blue is ice, and yellow is bolt.
So interestingly, so this was kind of the scenario I was looking for pretty much all seed. We've now found a character we can guarantee can wear that or equip that Illumina, but it's not guaranteed that Sabin can equip pretty much anything else to jump with, and we're very late in the game in levels here. So it's kind of the conundrum, do I take the character which I know can use, because at this point Gao is not all that useful. He doesn't, Rage isn't really gonna, you can use Rage all the way through the end of the game, but it's unreliable and it's dangerous. And where Celeste can use that Illumina, but you haven't been boosting her stats or anything this whole time, so she's got a decision to make, and Mr. E is sticking with Gao for now. I'm not sure what I would do in this particular scenario, but it's an interesting problem.
Yeah, we see Delta Hit coming out, which will petrify one of your characters, which essentially means they're dead. I don't think Sabin's going to end this fight here, but if it was, then Gao would not receive any XP for it. So yeah, we're going to check Celeste's cell in the basement. One of the not really looked at flags is the Coliseum. Does have a rewards menu, and we'll show you, I think, a little bit less than half of the items. So if you're really hurting for, and as we see Shoat there in Celeste's cell, good for tier 1, because it will petrify the long arm. But maybe is it worth a trip up to the Coliseum to see if there are any items in there that Sabin can perhaps potentially use as a jump. I know they both probably have Tiger Fangs. That's Sabin's vanilla strongest weapon, but it doesn't exactly work well with jump because it's not a sword or a spear.
Curious if that's what MrEntity is looking for right now. He's doing a bit of shopping, maybe looking for a better option.
Yeah, so South Figaro actually has different loot in the chests in the town between the World of Balance and World of Ruin. We've already seen both the runners loot the World of Balance South Figaro in the very beginning of the game, so it makes sense to loot World of Ruin South Figaro because they're going to be different items here, and tie it in with Celeste's check to get his 10th Esper. It'll be interesting to see if he ends up going through the Burning House or if he decides to go to either the Opera House, or he's probably not going to go through MTech.
Towards the Opera House, yeah.
Yep. So it looks like he will be doing that. Magitech Factory has 3 different checks in one, but the first 2 could only be Esper item. So he'd have to go all the way through Magitech to see if it was the character or not. So it makes sense that he's doing Opera House instead here.
Yeah, you would definitely want to go through. I mean, if the choice were Magitech Factory or Burning House, then you choose Burning House every time if you're only looking for a character. As painful as it is to say that.
Yep. So we'll see what's at the end of the Opera House. Meanwhile, Thorn has his 7 characters because he found Umaro there. He could possibly go to World of Balance or World of Ruin Narsh, because not only is there a dragon there, but there's also Tritalk, which can only be Esper item. And we know that the Umaro check is either Esper item, but it also makes sense here to go to the Magitech Factory because it's a lot quicker than going up through Narsh, and you have 2 chances to get Esper item in quick succession. So, the choice is kind of yours, depending upon how he feels about his levels. So, since he already fought 1 dragon, I guess he's thinking, I'm okay with levels. Let's not walk all the way up Narsh. Let's instead just do Magitech Factory here.
Yeah, just looking for that one last Esper. And what's it called? Tritalk has it's just often dead for whatever reason.
Yeah. You need to do Tritalk in order to get down into the Sasquatch cave. But yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah, no telling if it might be an item.
The only good thing about that is that you could warp out of World of Ruin Narsh, where you can't out of World of Balance Narsh. That's why the Kefkat Narsh check is so low, because you have to walk all the way back down. You can't warp out of it. His levels are in the mid-30s, so he's probably fine. He did not check Celeste's cell. I would have checked that before going in here, but maybe he thinks, okay, good, let me get 1 more battle under my belt so I could get even more levels.
Yeah, I'm betting he wants some more XP because it's certainly doable at this level, but it wouldn't be easy. MrEntity's still working on those rats. Hopefully he's rewarded with a character after this, or he's going to be pretty miffed.
Yeah.
We know it's in Burning House. He doesn't, and I'm curious to know if there's another character. I think there'd have to be one at the end of Magitech? Who's the... yeah, because if the Yeti didn't have...
It'd have to be, yeah. This is a fairly linear seed, which is somewhat disappointing because one of my favorite things about Worlds Collide is normally there's many ways to get through a particular seed, but this one, unfortunately, being gated at Kefka and Narsh is pretty straightforward. Zelfer coming in with a big raid, party of 10. Please have yourself a seat at the table in the back. That is more than we can accommodate at the tables up front for the couples. So thank you very much, Zelfer, for the raid. I, of course, looked away and missed what Thorn got as a reward. It couldn't have been an Esper because he's going up the stairs here. And we have Rizopus and Piranhas, my favorite punk band, aka Bathroom Break, over on MrEntity's side. Looking at the cheat sheet, it was a Force Shield. Womp, womp, womp. And it's Ghost Train, who can be X-Zone, so this fight should be over rather fast if we decide to take the easy way out. And it looks like we might. Oof!
Ouch. Ghost Train don't play.
No. I mean,
Well,
getting hit by a train wheel is probably never a good time. That's yikes. And there it is, the Phoenix Esper. So now Thorn is in Kefka Skip Go mode at 7 characters, 10 Espers, 1 Dragon. And Rizopus is coming out for MrEntity. If MrEntity gets character number 7 here, then we're going to have a race to the photo finish in Kefka's Tower. Thorn heading in, and will be saving before hitting up the statues. Unlike in the regular entrance, there is no save point before you just hop into the statues. Looks like he'll need to get Realm up. Or not. So yeah, in the statues, there's the middle you could overload, and it's Shadow at the Opera House. Kumbaya, we've got ourselves a race here.
We finally diverged at the 1 hour, 13-minute mark. Hot dang.
Alright, so for the statues, the middle group actually is the one that fights the most bosses too. Unlike at the regular entrances, it's the right group that fights the most bosses. So it looks like Thorn is going for the strategy of let's overload the party and send our strongest party up against everything. Let's see.
Strategy is gonna go do some extra checks, maybe, unless of course our tracker is off, which is possible, but I think it's okay. Got himself a lock, another Illumina swinger, but again at this point, not that big a deal. He might be headed over to Narsh to buy some more. Nope, he's not going to buy more Atma weapons. I was thinking maybe he found some Mega Elixirs or something somewhere, but I guess he's just getting more stuff. He's going to go. He's still looking for something. I wonder if maybe he only thinks he has 9 Espers because he's going in, or maybe he's just trying to load up.
Yeah, I mean it's worth
checks.
I think it's worth a shot to go to the free checks to see if you get a really ridiculously good item at this point, right? It takes, 20 seconds? But, yeah, if you're ready, then just go. As you see, Tritalk down over on the other screen. Another Illumina out of the weapon shop. So
worth it.
The gamble pays off here. That's definitely good. It just depends now if he's going to switch out his party. He's, like you said earlier, is he going to take out Gao for one of the other Illumina swingers, right? So Thorn gets by Tritalk, which is a boss that will absorb everything but fire. But thankfully we have Fire 3 all over the seed and Fire 2. Vargas and the Ipoos, another Final Fantasy VI band. We don't have access to Blitz, which would end this fight automatically. But we do have Atma weapon offerings and other goodies that can end this fight rather quickly.
Mr. E opting to not do any extra dragons. He's in the upper 30s, so it's not required. There's always the kind of debate, does doing a quick dragon save you time or cost you time? But he also elected to put that Illumina on Gao, who doesn't have a fight command, so basically seems like he's going to be relying on swinging the Illumina. Maybe he just wants it for the evasion or this in the stats. Otherwise, he's just relying on swinging it half the time in rages.
Well, we could also have Berserk, right? We know the Berserk spell. That'll definitely help.
You can, except the problem is when you have an Illumina and you have all that magic evade, it's hard to Berserk an Illumina user. It's not impossible, but you might waste turns just trying to get that Berserk to land.
I didn't even actually think about that. You're absolutely right. And Berserk will actually increase the physical damage that your character does. It's one of the perks of being Berserk. However, as you said, you can't control who you're targeting, and with an Illumina, you might not even be able to hit the spell altogether. Looks like Thorn is warping out after Vargas and the Aipus, and going back in on the left-hand side. We'll see what our statue bosses on that side, but so far, not a problem for our Kefka's Tower bosses here.
Like we're going to have kind of a mirror image happening here. MrEntity following right behind chose to go with the same strategy of loading up a single party and warping out. Hopefully they have enough warp stones. We have seen it happen to where somebody planned on warping out and then forgot that little bit. So that's always fun. But there's also brings up the question of, is it faster to split up your party, fight everything individually, and not have to worry about all the time it takes to warp out, go back in, choose your parties, do all the walking around, but then the fights may take longer and you won't get as much experience in your whole party. So that's always a question. For me, if all four of my characters are loaded on offense and I know I can kill stuff pretty good, then I'm not gonna put all four in. Maybe I'll do 2 and 2 and just make 2 trips and do everything on the last party. But typically I'll split them up. And I think with the options we have here, that's probably how I would have gone. But you never know. We might see a Magimaster or something nasty on one of these paths, and then I'd wish I had my whole party. So we'll see.
Yeah, as we see, Narapa going down on Thorn's screen is susceptible to instant death, but does have automatic reflect on him, so you have to use X Zone or Air Anchor or Cleave if you want to instant death Narapa. You can't just use Doom, otherwise you're going to kill your own party. And Thorn is down to one more boss before final KT. We'll see if it's a problem or not. In the qualifier, this was the Poltergeist problem that I certainly ran into. It cost me about 15 minutes trying to beat it down with the stick. And let's see, he does not bring Yeti in with him. Yeti is the greatest airship driver of all, is that right, Boo?
Ship driver. He's the only one that can do it. If you bring in the Yeti, no one's driving the boat, and it will crash.
So in this little finagling of parties back and forth, the only characters that can fight Final Kefka are the ones that you bring into the tower at this last particular trip. And since the Yeti was left out of the party scene, it seems that Sasquatches were not allowed, and it's Dataluma here on the right-hand side. So these bosses, it might have been easier just to send the parties normally without warping out and all that stuff, but you don't know until you actually are in the tower and trying to find that route.
Very true. We've got pretty much mirror images happening. They both have almost the exact same offense. So this final fight is going to come down to probably a little RNG and maybe a little who's got the better strategies. Who's managing the problems better.
Yep, execution, because they have mostly the same espers too, right? Because unfortunately, the linearity of the seed means they did most of the same checks here. And it looks like Thorn is going to be healing up his party here, arranging some espers, hopefully. And then we'll see how he deals with Tier 1. We have Fenrir and Golem, so one of them can be used on Tier 1, one of them can be used on Tier 3. We have Siren, as we see, which can mute magic on Tier 2. We have Phoenix, which could re-raise your party. We have Seraphim, which will heal your party. So it just is a matter of what pieces of magic he chooses. Unicorn's an interesting one. I don't even remember what Unicorn does. Is that remedy for the whole party?
Yeah, I think it removes all negative status effects. Yeah, Unicorn is good for train as long as the person with it can cast spells.
Yep.
It does require an echo screen or something on that caster first, but that's true. But I did want to say something about seed linearity. I know we often talk about how it's a bad thing, and oftentimes it is a little more entertaining to watch full divergence, but it can be interesting because then you have a good idea of who's really in the lead and who's navigating these checks a little better, who's got better strategies, or who got worse luck, in the fights and things. So it's not always a bad thing. Linear seeds can still be, well, entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. So this will be interesting to see as 122.05 is when ASilverThorn is heading into Final Kefka. I didn't actually write down how long it took them to do the tower, which is something I usually do. But that seemed pretty quick given the 4 bosses were not very difficult.
Yep. And Mystery right behind. Looks like he's probably going to end up being about a full tier behind in the fight. So I believe it's going to come down to... I'm not... come to think of it, I don't know how good their defense is in this seed. I know we've seen a Genji armor and we've seen a Force shield, and I believe Mr. E found an Aegis shield, but I don't recall seeing any Snow Mufflers or Minervas, or we certainly no Paladin shields. So it should be interesting to see if they get walloped by Kefka at all.
Yeah, one free Snow Muffler in the form of Umaro for Thorn, but that's about it. So tier 1, mostly physical tier. The head is the object that you want to hit down first. The head is weak to fire, and if you kill it, or if you leave it for last, it'll death counter with Quake, which is something you never want to do. The longer arm, or the right hand arm, is weak to instant death, so that's why we see the X zone come out here. We'll see if that works. It's also susceptible to break. I know we had Shoat kicking around as the Esper pool, so Shoat will petrify everything, so you can use break on the arm if you want. That right arm will counter with Shockwave 1 to 3 times, I believe, on death, if it's the last thing around, so that's something you also don't want to leave to the end, so most people will try and insta-kill the right arm.
I'm seeing dark gears and ninja suits here on Mr. E's screen, so he's hurting a little bit for defense. He's working his party around a little bit, and I noticed Thorn is hedging a little bit with some Life 3 casts. Unfortunately, he didn't Life 3 Realm, but plenty of time to get her back up. And yeah, like I was saying, tier 1 packs a punch in the physical department. So if you don't have things like Genji armors or Snow Mufflers, things like that, it's going to hurt. This is where a Phantom Esper comes in really handy. That Mirage Vest he's using are really good. If you have both Fenrir and Golem, you could opt to burn one here to save yourself maybe some trouble. But here comes Mr. E joining the fight, not too far behind, so this should be a tight race.
Yeah, it's a 2.5 minute difference between the two as of right now, so pretty close. We do see Flare Star coming out for Gao with Rage, so Flare Star being Fire Elemental will hurt the head a lot more than the other arm. It did about twice as much damage, and this Fire 3 will probably do quad 9s. I'm assuming that's the death of the head there.
Well, Doug the head is toast.
So yeah, we got one more piece to go on this first tier, and then it's up to the second tier. Realm.
You really don't like Realm. Unfortunately, that's where that Life 3 cast was aimed. I have to try that one again.
A lot of Phoenix Downs, though. Unfortunately, no Life 2, which would heal or bring back your party member at full HP. As we see here, a Odin cast will try to take out that arm. It's not. Realm down again.
Realm down again. Yeah, the game Final Fantasy VI does seem to know what characters have just been rezzed, and often will just put them right back down. It's a really good idea to line up both a Phoenix Down and a Cure in consecutive turns rather than relying on a full cycle going around and healing him afterward, because that kind of thing will happen over and over. Got No is petrified on MrEntity's screen.
Yeah, Dread is
finally got a
Dread is an ability that will be cast and it will petrify, but thankfully we've got a soft and we've got Thorn finally making it through tier 1. Hopefully Realm sticks around for a little bit longer this time. I think she died 5 times in that first tier. And tier 2 is a 4-parter. There's the Tiger, which is weak to ice. There's the Blue Man, which does physical damage only and is weak to stop. There is the Tools in the middle, which is weak to lightning and susceptible to instant death. And then Magic, which is hilariously only casts magic, but is also susceptible to mute, which means it can't cast magic. So that's why we see the Siren Esper coming out. We'll probably see X Zone for Tools, and then start to work on Tiger. Mr. E is down to just the face and the far arm. Is going to burn it with fire, which is what you need to do.
Dread block. Yep.
The X Zone does work for Tools, so that's 2 out of the 4 parts of tier 2 down for Thorn. Is going to want to go after the Tiger next, but with offering Atma Weapon and Gao that seems to be doing Rage most of the time, kind of a difficult ask, but the Drill will certainly help. Tools is an ability that gets less useful towards the end of the game, but if it's that or untargetable attack, I'll go with the Drill any day, as we see Mr. E taking down tier number 1.
You should have booted him for Celeste as soon as you got her. But here we are.
Yeah, it's sad when there's either an Illumina on the bench or as a stat stick for somebody that can't use the fight command.
But que sera, he's getting by just fine without her. Or rather, with Gao.
Yep.
So, we got dueling tier 2s here. Let's see if Mr.Entity has the same X-Zone luck. Yes.
Hey, first time every time.
Did he have... Well, I imagine he had Siren also. Didn't see if he already used it.
Pulling out Golem here, probably for the 10 hits after seeing what happened to everybody on the first phase. We do see 10 hits on Thorn's screen, just bullying Realm once again. The Mirage Vest is saving Gao's behind here, but Setzer is also getting hit in the face for a lot because he's in the front row. Remember, he's the Atma weapon user.
I don't know if you saw that, but Realm got taken out again, got life 3'd up, and then immediately hit again. Yet she had a clutch block there, so she's doing. She's still in it.
Yeah, let's get a hero Realm in the chat here for Realm. Unfortunately, is out of MP. An elixir will heal both your HP and MP. X potion will only heal your HP. I don't know if there's Osmose anywhere in the set of Espers. That's probably the only one that you would want with an X Magic user that we don't have. But alas, we're still going to soldier on.
One other thing to note about using something like a Golem or a Fenrir or something, or Phantom for 10 hits is not only is it much safer, can avoid dying, but every time it misses, it is a lot faster than you actually doing the animation of getting hit. So it can save you some time. Well, I guess not a lot of time, but it'll save you a little bit of time there as well.
This is a speed run. We look for any and all time to save.
Golem putting in some work here.
Yeah, so it will block physical damage for the amount of HP that the caster had. So a couple of thousand will go a long way, as we see Thorn down with tier number 2, moving on to tier number 3. 2 parts to this particular tier. There's the Lady in the Back, which absorbs all basically elements. Only has 9,999 HP though, but we want to take that one out first because that one will revive and also heal the other one, which is Sleep. Sleep has some nasty attacks, and when he's down under 10,000 HP, he'll throw out Meteo, which is a magic ability. It doesn't have very high hit rate, but it still hurts a lot. And it also will cast Train, which basically will blind and mute everybody in the party. And unlike in Vanilla, blind actually works in Worlds Collide, so it does affect people that will be doing physical attacks, such as Setzer here. Not on the jumpers, though.
Yeah, and curiously, it looks like Mr. E did not have Siren or forgot to equip it, because his magic is still casting, and unfortunately cast Life 3 on himself, it looked like, so he had to kill magic twice, although Life 3 won't give him his full 30,000 HP back, only 10,000, but still annoying. But now on to tier 3, and he's still choosing to jump with that Illumina. I think the thought process is if there's only one target, it'll do more damage to do multiple jumps on one target than it would be to just swing it one time, is my thought. And yeah, we saw that Calmness take out Setzer, but those Life 3 casts paid off.
Yeah,
moving
so
on to Final Kefka.
Interestingly, the Dispels at the end of Tier 2 will nullify any Life 3 casts that you have from earlier. So maybe it's lucky that Setzer did not get Dispelled there. Drew corrects me in chat. Offering does make Blind not a factor, because you can't mess with an Offering. And we have Final Kefka. This is kind of a dance of a fight, if you will. 60,000 HP. When Kefka gets down below 30,000, he will start using Goner, which is an attack that he has to charge one turn for, and during that turn he does not counterattack. Otherwise, he starts counterattacking with lots of fun abilities like Train and Hyperdrive and Havoc Wing. Yep, and Havoc Wing. And once it gets down below 10,000 HP, we'll counter with Ultima, which is not something that you ever want to see. Setzer needs some more health here, because Atma Weapon will do its best damage at full health. And the Fallen one means you're going to have to get that back up again. We do have a Mega Elixir, though, that we found in the Returner's hideout way back in the beginning of the game here. So that's what's going to be used to heal our party up.
However, with the Life 3 cast that he has on his whole party, he'd probably just go in for YOLO strats here and just... I wouldn't even care about Ultima at this point, because you can, even if you die, you're getting right back up, and then pretty much one more hit will kill him. So I imagine we're getting real close here, and as Mr. E is, I'm sure, just about to hit Tier 4. Yep, here comes the Calmness.
Yeah, it takes out Realm. Realm seems to be getting bullied on all sides. A clutch block from Realm after the Life 3, but Crack Pow.
ASilverThorn, GG, well done.
ASilverThorn finishing in first place for this race with an official time of 1:34.15. Get your GGs in chat as Mr.Entity climbs onto Final Kefka. This was a nail biter, folks. I don't know if you've got any nails where you are, but mine are off. They're gone.
Don't nails, so it's technically still true.
Don't need a manicure after watching this race. So, GG's for ASilverThorn. We'll see if he wants to come in for an interview once Mr. E's Final Kefka is done. We see the jumping coming out right away from Sabin. He's doing like 4,600 a pop on those jumps, so he's doing a lot of damage. Same with Setzer here. And the Offering Atma Weapon, we might not even see. Yeah, we go right into Goner here, and Kefka is not long for this world over on Mr. E's side.
We do have ASilverThorn in with us for an interview. GG Thorn, congrats on the win.
Thank you. Just to confirm, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you. Yes,
excellent.
Indeed. And so I know you probably don't know this, well, hopefully you don't because you weren't watching, but Mr.Entity just finished right behind you. That was a nail biter of a finish. You guys were neck and neck pretty much the whole seed, but that final fight was something to watch. So well done on the fight. Everything seemed to go pretty smooth. What were your thoughts on the end there?
Yeah, I was really happy with the end there. Glad I kept that Life 3 up, especially on Realm. Tier 1 really didn't like Realm very much.
No,
brutalized. Same with MrEntity also. His realm was having a tough time. So, what was your strategy? What was your approach coming into the seed?
Well, so I know the scaling on these seeds are pretty high. So normally I try to do as many free checks as possible at the beginning, but opted to try to do some more bosses. Got really lucky that I put the Mirage Vest on Gal, so that Gigantos I was able to take out at the very beginning.
Oh yeah, he hit you
Yeah,
like
yeah.
12 times and it never went away. That was pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
I was so ready to hit my reset button there, but really glad that worked out. Then I had a really powerful Gal for a while that took me through the early game.
Were you
Someone-
worried that Sabin and Realm didn't get much leveling in the Serpent Trench? I know that runners usually will take that check to get some levels, and they were pretty much down on the map the whole time. Was that worrying you going into whatever you're going to do next?
Yeah, I was wondering when I would finally get into a fight in which I could in which they wouldn't get knocked out in the first round. But yeah, that was a bit of a concern, but I was able to catch up then, and then finding the Illumina like right after that also made the early game. Shops were really light. I definitely relied on the things I found in chests.
Yeah, I think the shop randomization is only 15% in this flag set, and the idea is we didn't want you finding something like buying your way to a win, basically. You know, like finding Ragnaroks in a shop. Although I think that's happened twice today already. But I did want to ask you. Someone in the chat had asked the question if you are a vanilla speedrunner.
I'm not, no.
Okay. Well, someone was very impressed with your menuing and movement and stuff, so they were curious, and I didn't know. So there you go. Just naturally gifted, I guess.
Lots of practice.
Oh, thank you. That is something I've been practicing. So glad to, appreciate the feedback.
Cool. Well, listen, you and Mr. Entity finished so close to each other. We got to get him here and find out his thoughts. So, do you have any parting words before we let you go?
No, GG. Thanks for coordinating this whole tournament.
Oh, sure. Thanks for running it. And GG again, and we'll see you in the next round.
Thanks. Bye.
Yep, nice job. We'll see if
And
Mr.
now
Entity
we
wants to
shall
come
get the
chat.
entity in here. There he is, Mr. Entity. GG's and condolences. That was a very exciting and very close race. How'd it go?
I blame Kefka and Nash for everything ever.
We saw that coming. We knew that was going to be an issue. I really liked your rename card play. Interestingly, did that cost you the win? Who knows? We don't know.
But like I said last race, when not doing Kefka and Nash kind of helped me get higher than my personal average placement. I never do it unless it's the last possible option. And today that didn't go well for me. When did Thorn go there?
Not too
It was
much
both
before
last
you did.
location, I think. Yeah.
I think he definitely did one.
Like I said last race,
I thought he
when not
might have
doing
done one more than you
Kefka
did,
and
but
Nash kinda helped me get
or rather one less, but it could have been last also. But yeah, pretty close together. You guys were actually really close together the entire seed. It was surprisingly mirrored. I don't know. You did checks in different order, but the only time you ever diverged was right at the end when he opted to do Burning House and you opted to do Opera House. They both had characters, and they were both your final characters, and then went into did the KT skip. Something curious that I was talking about, well, not curious, but something I wanted to ask you about when doing the KT skip. Obviously, you don't know what bosses are waiting at the statues, but do you take it into account how powerful your party is and whether you want to split them up and try to take all the statues on in one go, or is your strategy always just to take one party into each path? Or
I
rather,
do not always take all 4 characters each way, but this game there was almost no defense available whatsoever. So while I did have offense, there was no way I was keeping like a party of 2 alive through a hard battle, and there were a lot of difficult bosses that didn't show up. So
Yep.
I opted for safety. I was considering splitting for the last one, the two sides, and it would have worked out fine because they were all easy bosses. But yeah, I played it safe because it seemed like chances were something nasty was going to show up there.
Sure. Yeah, and Thorn did the exact same thing. I was just kind of curious how you approach it. I had another comment about that, but it's gone out of my head. Schwantz, you got anything for MrEntity?
Yeah, so the only thing that I have here that Boo didn't touch on was at the very end of the seed before you went into Kefka's Tower. I noticed you did a few of the free checks, Gal Manor, and the weapon shop. Were you just looking for powerful gear, I guess, because you were worried about your armor?
Gal Manor was just that I forgot that it was 710 and not 810, but I did do the lock check in the hopes that I would get some reasonable piece of defensive gear. And I got an aluminum, which is a piece of defensive gear. So, yeah. I don't really regret that choice, but, I could have saved myself a bit of time there. And then maybe had an even worse time with Final Kefka. Tier 1 was an absolute wanker. It's not often you see Odin miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a bummer. If it makes you feel better, it took Thorn, I don't know, 3 or 4 tries, I think, to kill him, to X zone him.
Yeah, X zone's not very accurate.
We did notice you were jumping around a lot with the Illumina. Was that a conscious choice, as in like single target, I can get 2 hits out of it, rather than hoping for the crit and the proc or something like that?
It depended on what I was fighting. If it was something that I thought I could kill really fast and didn't need 4 hits from the Illumina, I'd just swing at it. If it's something I specifically wanted to target because it needed to die first, I would swing at it. But otherwise, jumps. Jumps is slow, but it's a strong weapon either way.
Well, it was a good showing. Y'all put on a good show for the crowd, which was sizable, which is good. Any my dog is cheering for you also. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I wish I hadn't placed 3rd in the qualifier.
Oh.
But
good to know.
Thanks for running the thing, and hope everyone else does well. Hope Thorn can go on to upset the Zelfer Mega Victory standard.
Hopefully. Well,
or it's Zelfer versus Keel, isn't it? So yeah, one of those two is. They're both.
Well, that race has already happened, but I won't spoil it for anybody who wants to watch the VOD. They finished, I don't know, half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, something like that. So
I was busy.
Yeah, you were.
Clearly.
The viewers out there on Twitch, don't look at the bracket. In case you want to keep that as secret, go onto the Discord, find the VODs, take a look. But as it is, MrEntity, you're out of this one. But as mentioned earlier, there is a bigger tournament coming up, I believe. The plan is for February, provided everything goes well. And hopefully we'll see you in that one.
Yeah, I will definitely participate and hopefully not go out in the first round.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. And GG's again.
Yeah, thanks again. And we'll see you in the next one.
All right, Schwantz, take us home.
All right. Well, thank you to Franklin, who was doing both the streaming and the tracking in this particular race. Thanks, Boo, for commentary with me alongside. Cannot have the show without the people behind the scenes. If you want to be either on the mic or behind the scenes, you could sign up at our Discord in order to help out with these events. I always have a good time either watching them or participating in them. We do have the Tiny Winter Tournament going on. Is the plan to stream another match of this on Thursday's community race, or is that still going to be just a normal community race?
I think the current plan is, so we're going to have the finals of this, at least the current plan. Our plans have gotten a little interrupted by, the current COVID situation has thrown a potential monkey wrench in. So we will see, but the plan is for a Friday final, so we're going to forego the community race restream, although the community race will likely still happen. That is, unless we have plenty of volunteers who are throwing themselves to restream everything. So, like Schwan said, come onto the Discord, volunteer, help us out. We could use you. But I think instead we'll be doing that on Friday, and with the finale of the tournament will come a surprise or a special announcement. So stay tuned. You will not want to miss that one.
All right, awesome. And be sure to follow our runners, MrEntity and ASilverThorn, for their awesome job in putting on this entertaining product for everybody to watch tonight. I've been the Schwantz27. This has been Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.
Bye.